It remains the most perplexing aviation mystery of all time. How could something as massive as a Boeing 777 simply vanish without a trace? Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 disappeared on March 8, 2014, leaving the world in shock and with more questions than answers. The morning news began with, "Ladies and gentlemen, we are deeply saddened this morning." For an airplane to disappear entirely, leaving so few clues, is almost unprecedented. Aviation experts, investigators, and families alike have searched tirelessly for answers. Could the disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight have flown into a Pacific Ocean Bermuda Triangle? Is that why it vanished and was never heard from again? That's what we're trying to find out. Welcome to Beyond the Edge Mysteries. Let's explore the compelling theories, from an aircraft fire and hypoxia to the Inmarsat data and the haunting final flight path. Let's venture deep into the conundrum of the Boeing 777 Model 200ER and discover the shocking truths about MH370. Flight 370 began as any routine flight would. Departing from Kuala Lumpur International Airport, its destination was Beijing. On board were 227 passengers, including 152 Chinese nationals and 12 crew members. Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah, a 33-year veteran of Malaysian Airlines, was at the helm. First Officer Fariq Abdul Hamid was far less experienced. This was his first flight without an instructor. At 12:41 a.m., the Boeing 777 lifted off into the night. By 1:01 a.m., it reached cruising altitude at 35,000 feet. The flight appeared entirely routine. As controllers handed the plane off from Malaysian to Vietnamese airspace, the last recorded transmission came from the cockpit at 1:19 a.m. With this thoughtful message, "Good night, Malaysian 370. No other words could have been so haunting. What happened next has baffled experts for nearly a decade. Less than 1 minute after the crew's final transmission, Flight 370 disappeared from air traffic control radar. Controllers in Vietnam and Malaysia made repeated attempts to contact the plane. They repeatedly sent a series of panicked messages. Malaysian 370, do you copy? This is Kuala Lumpur Control. But there was no response. No distress signal. No emergency squawk code. Nothing but deafening silence. Within minutes, one of the most sophisticated aircraft in the world had simply vanished from radar. The disappearance of Flight 370 sparked an international investigation. Search teams from Malaysia, Australia, the United States, and China scoured more than 100,000 square miles of ocean. But unlike most aviation disasters, there was no immediate wreckage, no floating debris. Experts were forced to rely on minimal data to piece together what might have happened. Investigators turned to the aircraft's communications system, ACARS, or the Aircraft Communications Addressing and Reporting System. While the plane's transponder was turned off at 1:21 a.m., the ACARS system continued to send automated signals, or handshakes, to a satellite every hour. These signals revealed something shocking. Flight 370 continued flying for more than 7 hours after it disappeared from radar. What happened? Why did they stop communicating with air traffic control? Analysis of the ACARS data showed the plane suddenly veered sharply to the west, away from its intended route to Beijing. It crossed the Malay Peninsula, flew over the Indian Ocean, and eventually turned south towards one of the most remote areas on Earth. Investigators suspect the aircraft finally ran out of fuel and crashed into the southern Indian Ocean. Or did it? But what caused the initial turn? Another theory comes to mind. The case for the rogue pilot has been repeatedly asserted as an explanation for why the passenger jet took an erratic course around Malaysia and flew south for several hours before smashing into the Indian Ocean. Why did the transponder and ACARS system go offline? Was this an accident or was it deliberate? Additionally, electromagnetic anomalies could interfere with navigational instruments, causing planes to veer off course into uncharted territories. One of the earliest theories was a catastrophic fire. Could a fire in the cargo hold have knocked out the transponder and incapacitated the crew? The plane was carrying 487 pounds of lithium-ion batteries, highly flammable if damaged. However, experts argue that a fire would have brought the plane down much sooner, not allowed it to fly for 7 more hours. Another possibility is hypoxia, a loss of cabin pressurization. Could this have left everyone on board unconscious, allowing the plane to continue on autopilot until it ran out of fuel? This theory aligns with the flight's straight and level trajectory, but it doesn't explain the deliberate turns made after the plane disappeared from radar. Attention soon turned to the cockpit. Could Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah have deliberately taken control of the aircraft? Depressurizing the cabin would incapacitate passengers and crew within minutes, leaving him alone in the cockpit. The plane's final, deliberate turns support this theory, but Zahari's family and colleagues insist he was a devoted professional with no history of mental illness or personal struggles. Then there's the most speculative theory. Could Flight 370 have entered a Pacific Bermuda Triangle, a region of unexplained phenomena? While scientists dismiss this idea, the eerie lack of evidence fuels more speculation. The plane's trajectory into one of the most remote parts of the Indian Ocean adds to the unexplained riddle. No matter the theory, one fact is clear. The final hours of Flight 370 remain a dark paradox forever. The parallels between the Devil's Sea and the Bermuda Triangle are uncanny. Both regions are infamous for the unexplained disappearance of ships and planes, sudden storms, and magnetic anomalies that disrupt navigation systems. Together, they form a chilling pattern of maritime and aviation mysteries across the globe. But what exactly is the Pacific Bermuda Triangle, and why has it earned such a menacing reputation? Known in Japan as the Dragon's Triangle, this treacherous area stretches between the Philippine Sea, the southern coast of Japan, and the Mariana Islands. Within these waters lies one of the ocean's deepest trenches, the Mariana Trench, home to immense geological forces that may hold the key to some of these mysteries. The Devil's Sea isn't the only place in the Pacific linked to aviation mysteries. In 1947, a Douglas DC-4 disappeared near the Philippines with 13 crew members and 21 passengers on board. Just a year later, a Douglas C-54 vanished en route to Guam. These cases raise a chilling possibility. Could the vast, remote expanses of the Pacific Ocean hide a pattern of disappearances that we've only just begun to understand? And could MH370's flight path have intersected with one of these deadly zones? Despite years of searching, only a handful of debris has been recovered. Pieces of the wing and flaperon washed ashore in the western Indian Ocean. The plane's main wreckage, along with its flight data recorders, remains lost to this day. Where is the rest of the plane? Without the black boxes, which are actually colored orange, key questions may never be answered. Sadly, families will never know what happened to their loved ones. It appears this aviation's perplexing puzzle will continue to have missing pieces that will never give us the full picture. How could a state-of-the-art aircraft vanish in an age of constant connectivity? How could there be no wreckage so many years later? Could this tragedy have been prevented with better tracking technology? And most hauntingly, what happened during the final hours aboard? Was this plane taken over by a pilot who had planned to end his life along with all the others on board? The disappearance of Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 remains one of the greatest mysteries in aviation history simply because the plane is still missing somewhere in the Indian Ocean. Like the countless aviation tragedies in the Devil's Sea, this reminds us of the ocean's power and the limits of our understanding, even in the midst of all these technological advances. Was it a catastrophic accident, a calculated act of sabotage, or something we have yet to entertain? A supernatural or paranormal possibility? How many more planes must vanish before we unlock the secrets of these dangerous skies? We hope you enjoyed exploring these facts with us. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that subscribe button for more Beyond the Edge mysteries. And remember, the truth is often closer and darker than you think.